We're supposed to be in the event.
Are we?
Well,
Deb's here, so.
We're supposed to be in the event. Oh, I forgot to turn off my sound.
All right, so should I start?
Well, Deb's here, so.
I'm not seeing a video.
There's a lag.
Oh, it's under discussion. I was on the about side.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go. Welcome to Longbourn Literary Society's weekly Society Pages video chat. I'm Zoe Burton, and I'm with Rose Fairbanks and Leenie Brown, and we are going to, catch you. We're going to share things and just share stuff and just kind of have a good time. So who wants to start this time with their sharing?
I say I'll start. That'll be fine.
Okay.
And then then you guys can go, and then after that I've got one self-promo thing that I'll do after. Okay, so let's see, what do I have going on in my life? Writing life, that is. I have a book that is supposed to be going on pre-order today, but it won't because I didn't get my editing in yesterday. So it'll probably be tomorrow or Monday before I actually get the pre-order up. That is Mr. Darcy's Comfort. I do have it back from my final editor, so I'm trying to get the final copy up for the pre-order period so that Amazon can't make any mistakes with the file. So that's why I was holding off for a couple of days to see if I can get that done. And I'll work on the print version while that's on pre-order and get all the links and stuff ready. I'm still working on 2 projects. The sequel to Confounding Caroline, which is Delighting Mrs. Bennet, and the sequel to Mr. Darcy's Comfort, which still has no title. I've got, I think it's around 10,000 words almost on that.
Yeah, you got a fair bit.
Yeah, it's been going really, really well writing-wise. It's been so much fun. The other one's not going quite as well, but I find that, oddly, when the stories focus on Darcy and Elizabeth, they're more of a struggle than when it focuses on a side character for me. It's just the way it works. I guess because there's more that you can do with the side character. You don't have to stick so close to what people are expecting.
Yeah.
And I think that's all I have right now. I did share some videos earlier this week. I got some things. I'll show you my mug that I have today. Get it in there.
I love that.
Some things from my Society 6 page. So that's my water for today. So that was kind of exciting. But I shared a couple of videos about those on the group page. So you can look those up if you want. I just get really excited when I get new things. Kind of fun. And that's it for me. So next. And yes, Cheryl, we are going to do self-promo in just a moment.
I'll go next.
Okay.
Okay, Darcy's Surprise Betrothal is still doing really well. Thank you to everybody who bought it and who has left a review. I appreciate that. The one I'm working on, if you followed my blog or if you're a Patreon patron, is I named it To Save Elizabeth. It's about right around 16,000 words now, and I'm not done with my daily goal is 2,000 words, and I've got like 430. So I got a ways to go today. I have an original character that I'm trying to name, and my Patreon patrons who are at the $5 and above level, they have a request posted to help me name that character. And of course, all my patrons, at this point, there's not a lot of patrons, so they all get mentioned. They all get thanked in the acknowledgments of my book, but the ones who help me name characters, then they get a special mention. You may have seen me post that I have a new cover for Matches Made at Netherfield, and I was really excited because I have a template and Rose like gave me directions, so I'm copying and pasting all her directions. Now I have a sheet. So, but I managed to get that cover done, with Rose and Leenie helped me with, tips. And I don't know, it just didn't quite look right. So I would go and I would mess with things. I have a cover and it's addictive. I'm telling you, it's addictive. So I will be working on more covers. Of course, I have to make the one for To Save Elizabeth first. But anyway, my next Austin Authors post is April 30th, which is in like 16 days. I have no idea what the topic is yet. I'll think of something. In August, if you are in the Northeast Ohio or Northwest Pennsylvania area, I am planning on being at Pymatuning Lake for the Pymatuning Lake Festival. That's August 4th and 5th. It's all day Saturday and a good chunk of the day Sunday. And I will have print books for sale, and I will sign the books. If you buy, I'll sign. If you happen to be in the area and you happen to own one of my books and you want it signed and you bring it to the festival, I will sign it for you and we get to chat. So then there's a place called MeWe that all three of us are on that I'm kind of trying to promote. It's similar to Facebook, but it's not got quite all the features exactly the same. I mean, it's very similar, but it's not. It's just not Facebook. They're not selling our data to other places. And I realized that I don't have a link to that in my blog posts. So I'm going to be adding that. And then I don't have a contact page on my website, and I'll be adding that. So if you need to get a hold of me and you don't know what my email address is, soon you'll be able to look on my website. And that's my news. Did Rose duck out when it was her turn?
Yeah, it looks like, I don't know if her camera just went out.
She lost the internet. She texted me. She lost the internet, she thinks.
All right, well, we'll just continue on, and when she comes back, she can see this is what happens, Rose, when you don't start and do your thing first.
I'll tease her when she comes back.
Yeah. Okay, and let's see. There was at least one that I had seen, one self-promo thing that had got left on our link in the event page. So let me get that up here so I can show it to you. I'm going to put it full screen so that we can see it. So you and I will go away for a minute, Zoe. Okay.
Okay.
So Deborah Ann had a lovely 5-star review on her book this week, which is always exciting when you get those nice 5-star reviews. So she posted a image of that in the self-promo, and I had wanted to, hang on one second. I'm going to actually show you her book too. I had time to look it up. I actually could remember the title, which was really good for me because I don't always remember things like that. And since we don't have tons of self-promo, I have time to do this today. So can't always do this every time just because we don't have time, but let me get that up there, and I will let that be full screen as well. This is called, let me make sure you can read it, Falling for Elizabeth Bennet, a Pride and Prejudice variation, both paperback and Kindle. And from what I've read, it is about, Elizabeth has epilepsy, I believe, in this one. So that is a different thing that I haven't seen before.
That is.
Yeah. So let me see.
Well, Rose gave us a thumbs up.
Yeah, she's trying to get back. She'll get here eventually. I'm just going to double check to make sure there wasn't anything left after for self-promo that I'm missing. No, I don't see any. I don't know if Cheryl, that's her name. Sorry. Cheryl had something. She was here a minute ago, and I don't know if she's still here or not because my screen just went away too on my phone. So the screen on the event page is a little different for me today. It doesn't look quite the same.
I can get to Facebook from my browser on my tablet, but I don't have the app. Let me see if I can help.
Oh, there we go. I found it.
Got it? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Peggy, we are still live.
We are. Even though there's an Xfinity race on. We're sorry about that.
Yes, NASCAR just wouldn't change their schedule for us.
No. They do this to me all the time. You know what? But I just looked at what race is on in August when I'm going to be at the Lake Festival, and it's a road course in New York, Watkins Glen, and I said, "Oh, I can miss that."
Yeah, I don't. I think we did lose Cheryl. You're right. I don't like the road races as much.
I don't at all.
All right. Well,
terrible, I know, but they're boring.
Yeah, they are. They're not. They're just not as exciting. It's just the way it is.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm sure eventually, maybe Rose will get back here.
She will. I can't even find.
And I had a thought.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to share a little bit my last RWA meeting that I had this past Sunday. I posted pictures. I got to dress up while I was there in some of the costumes. They had a reenactor. He and his wife both are reenactors, and they came in and spoke to us about 1779. I think is the year that they reenact for one of the Highland groups that would have been stationed in Canada and various places would have, marched down to the United States and stuff too if they needed. And it was interesting. The lady, she said that as a wife, she had to have permission, to be part of the group. So the commanding officer would have to give permission. The ratio was usually 1 woman per 12 men. So that's about it. If you were married, an officer who was married, the officer himself was going to get land given to him for his service when his time was up, but he would also get land given to him for his wife and any children that they had. So having a wife and children was very beneficial to him. And if you were a wife and your husband died, you had 48 hours, exactly 48 hours, to be remarried, or you were out.
Really?
You were not part of the unit except through your husband. So you had 48 hours. And she told a story about there was one lady whose husband had died, and there were 2 men who were thinking of asking to marry her. And the one thought he would wait until she came back from the funeral service, and the other one proposed at the graveside. So she accepted the guy who proposed at the graveside and married him.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. And I see there are some comments, and I'm going to get
Cheryl put her promo down there.
Yes. Lily Bernard's new book, New Beginnings, Book 1, Wickham's Revenge, has been receiving lots of 4 and 5 stars. And the price has been reduced. Hope you will take a look.
Good deal. Congratulations. That's good.
That's awesome. It's always great to get those 4 and 5 stars.
Yes.
Yeah. I find my non-Darcy and Elizabeth books tend to get higher stars as well. But that's okay.
Oh, is Peggy in here with us? Yay.
Yeah, she was.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I know. She said not anymore, so I'm assuming that the race was probably over.
Yeah. Most likely.
Yeah. So I thought those couple of facts were kind of interesting to think about.
They are. Who knew? really, it makes the whole marriage of convenience thing, that much more real to know people really did. You married, you maybe barely knew.
Yeah, and another thing, well, obviously, if they were moving from camp to camp, they walked. So if you had children who could walk, they would walk with you. If they couldn't walk, you carried them. You carried all of your stuff with you. You lived in canvas tents unless you were billeted to one of the inns or possibly some family in the region, which I know I've also read happened with the militia in England.
Yeah.
Especially during the winters and stuff. You can't really survive out in your tents so well. And if there was a battle, then the women were, responsible for the cooking and things. When there wasn't a battle, the men often did the cooking. And if someone was injured, the ladies were the ones that went out, helped to bring them back in, take care of the wounded. And if someone was killed, they were the ones that went out and stripped the body of all the things that could be used by another member of the unit.
Yeah.
So they do these reenactments of battle, and the gentleman was telling about a young guy who came to be a reenactor, and he was just kind of being a bit of a pain, he said to everybody. And usually when they have the battle and somebody gets your musket misfires or whatever 3 times in a row, you're dead, so you have to fall down and be dead. And they'll strip them down to their small clothes, but they didn't stop at his small clothes. And he said, it was just so much more cooperative after that. Can you imagine all those people watching? Anyway, that was my excitement for last Sunday.
I love that.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Peggy's still here.
Hey, Peggy.
Yes, I bet it was a little bit easier for you as a Navy wife, Peggy. You didn't have to carry your children on your back and walk around with them. Oh, and look, there's Rose.
Hey, Rose.
Coming back. Usually when they have the battle and somebody gets your musket misfires or whatever.
Yeah,
right, Rose. So you have your sound on. Am I back?
You are
back. You are back. Can you hear us? Oh, Peggy's still here.
Hey, Peggy.
I don't know if she can.
I don't know if she can.
Anyway, Peggy, you didn't have to carry your children on your back and walk around with them.
She's catching up now.
There's Rose. Hey, Rose. Back. Usually when they have the battle, it's pretty good. Oh, sure. You heard that?
I can't see anyone else.
Oh, no.
We see you.
Can you hear us, though?
I don't think she can.
Can you hear us?
I can't. I can only hear you guys on Facebook.
Oh, no. Well, here, let me try. Why don't we try removing you and seeing if you can connect again?
Okay, hopefully this time it'll work for her. For Rose.
You heard that? I can't see anyone else.
Oh, no.
Can you see us?
Can you hear us, though?
I don't think she can.
Poor girl.
Oh, she's all dressed up too.
I know. Oh no. Well, here, let me try. Why don't we try removing? Okay, well, everyone else can see you, Rose, which is good. Oh, and she's gone again. All right.
Am I finally back?
You are back.
Are you back?
Guys, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Well, I was really interested in what you were saying, Eileen. And then I kind of interrupted everything.
No, that's okay. Those were just some of the things that I remembered from the talk that just really stood out to me about the life that these people would have lived. You can imagine if Wickham had been sent over as part of that unit and had Lydia with him and her having to trudge around with their kids and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite the wake-up call, I think.
Definitely. Well, I know when I visited the Citadel here in Halifax, they did say that if your marriage was not approved by whoever the commanding officer was, then if you were transported, say you were taken from here to Bermuda or somewhere to another post, your wife and your family was left behind because they were not approved. If you were approved, then they might transport your family with you, but an unapproved family was not, and you would have to pay for them to find their way to where you were. So, yeah, interesting stuff.
I feel like maybe it says a lot about Regency gentry and everything that Jane Austen didn't make that an option for Wickham. Instead, Darcy had him transferred and he stayed in England and everything. So that must have really been like a last resort sort of option.
Right.
Which I guess makes sense because from what I know from Revolutionary history, they didn't send their best soldiers. The British didn't send their best soldiers to fight the American colonists. So I guess that makes sense. So,
yeah.
Very interesting.
And she would have known some about
the
different postings because like her brother was stationed here in Halifax.
Yeah. Well, should I share my news now since I'm finally here?
Sure, before you fade away again.
I'm so sorry. I moved my desk around so I could be in front of a window, and I'm a little further from the router, and I don't know if that was it or what. But I mean, we did it like 2 hours ago, and the internet was fine. So I don't, and the internet was fine for everyone else right outside the door. You can hear them giggling and laughing. But so the release for The Secrets of Pemberley is still doing well. I have a blog tour going on right now. Today was a review at justjane1813.com, and it got 4.5 stars, so I'm very pleased with that. And I think tomorrow it's another guest post at Babblings of a Bookworm, and then Monday will be a final post on Austen-esque reviews. And I've been doing these kind of Lizzie Bennet diary inspired diary entries to give people a little bit of a companion feeling for the story. If they've already enjoyed it, then they can enjoy these videos. If they haven't read the book yet, then maybe it'll entice them through the book. So it's a little bit different. Usually people I already shared a bunch of excerpts on Austen authors, and I did have one actual like blog post that I wrote for Diary of an Eccentric. I wrote about Edward the Fourth. I always get them a little confused. And his wife, Elizabeth Woodville, who wasn't born of noble or royal blood. And there's a scene within the story where Darcy and Elizabeth are talking about them as a couple. So other than that, I finished my edits for my Regency Scottish book called The Maid of Inverness. I always pronounce it wrong. I was going to say Inverness or something like that. So I'm not sure what the expected release date on that is. I think May something. Okay. It's with a small publisher press, so I don't know. I'll have to see what they say. I'm not allowed to share any excerpts or teasers or anything about it until there's like a final approved manuscript. So we got to wait a little bit longer. But I really enjoyed it. It's a really cute story. And I named the hero after my husband. So My husband's not Scottish, but he has a Scottish first name. So
did you tell him this?
Yes, you know, and of course it's Joe. We did have to change the last name. I originally chose Montgomery, but there's actually a lot of other M names in the story, so the editor suggested picking something else. So I told my husband, I was like, will you pick your last name then? And I gave him a couple of options. So he went with Randolph.
There you go.
So the hero now is Douglas Randolph. And yeah. Then I finished editing Loving What I Have from the old version many years ago. Very bad version of Loving Elizabeth, which is where she has an older brother who's best friends with Darcy. And it was about 8,000 words, and I trimmed it down to like 5,000 because there's quite a lot of info dumping and just things that slowed the story and everything. So, and I actually managed to write about 1,500 words on that this week. So I'm excited for that. And for the first time since January, it was one of my New Year's resolutions, and I'm finally getting to it, is I have spent a little bit of time this weekend on my witch series and also on some original work. I think what I've decided is I just need to have those books finished, and then I can just release them all at once. And they'll do better than if I release them slower. So I need to have a stockpile, and I need to just commit to doing a little bit of time on them every week, and it'll slowly add up. So I'm excited that I finally had a little bit of time to do that. Yeah, that's my news.
You're busy. Awesome. You're very busy.
You're busy.
Yeah, I didn't mention anything about my last release because it's really not doing well. So that's why we're talking about the one that's coming up.
Right.
I expect that one I'll do a little bit better. Although I will say this week I did have a kind of exciting thing happen. At least I thought it was exciting. I don't know if anyone else will. One of my former students posted a picture that she had just received 3 books, Unraveling Mr. Darcy, Becoming Entangled, and Enticing Miss Darcy. So she got the trilogy, and she had posted that she would read them. So I get a little nervous because I was her composition teacher.
Oh.
Makes it a little, I hope she's not going through it with a red pen. Remember the Miss
Brown?
Yeah.
There's a mistake here.
Yeah. I remember having chats with her about persuasion. She really likes persuasion.
Ooh.
Yeah, back when she was in grade 12. So, yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, it's a little bit exciting. Anything you learned this week? Either just
how to switch things out in a Facebook template.
I didn't have any time for professional development between colonoscopy and the endoscopy and trying to get all these other things done and taking kids to school and there's a part of me that just wanted to sleep for a long time this morning.
Yeah,
right.
I imagine. Yeah.
I got to sleep until 8. That's sleeping in these days.
That is.
I have 2 children, but I never had that problem. They've always been late sleepers, so I've been very blessed that way.
If I had left the remote down for them, and if there was actually anything for them to eat for breakfast, then I would have been able to push that probably till 9. But but Mom didn't get to the grocery store either.
Uh-oh.
And during the school week, I have to hide the remote because otherwise they'll start watching shows and not want to actually get ready for school. So I forgot about that last night because I didn't even come downstairs last night. So
okay, I find it kind of funny that they don't know to go and push the button.
Oh, well, it's up on this shelf and
okay. So they can't reach it.
I think it's on the side or maybe it's around the back.
Okay. Because when I was that age, I would have just gone.
Yeah, when we were little, we were the remote, right?
Yeah. I got busted one time for watching TV because we weren't supposed to watch TV when the parents were gone, and I was like, I don't know, 13 or 14, and but Dad had left his wallet on top of the TV. And we didn't think to clean off the TV. We just had it shut off because you could see them coming up the road. So when we knew about when time they would be coming home, one of us would be watch, the lookout. And then here they come, way up half mile away. So we would shut the TV off. Well, then Dad picks up his wallet and it's worn. Oh, we were in some serious trouble. After that, you clean the TV off, everything from around the TV, and then you turn it on.
So if they come home and see a cleaned off TV, they should know.
Yeah, well, no. When the lookout says, "Hey, here they come," then you shut the TV off and you put everything back on top.
Yeah, you have to remember what order it's in.
Because the TV, of course, this is in the days of not like these little thin TVs.
Yeah.
Now. You could fit. I mean, Mom had a nice wide doily over it, and stuff. So yeah.
See, that wouldn't work for me though because I don't dust. So I would notice the dust outlines.
My mom did, but I don't.
Yeah, right.
Actually, for quite a while, we didn't even have a television when I was young.
Wow.
Because we had one of those huge behemoths, and the tube burnt out, and they just never replaced it until, let's see, I think I was probably in elementary school, beginning of elementary school, and I was probably at least junior high school before we got it replaced. There were, a number of years, and we didn't watch much TV, because it had to be in the room with everybody watching it, so it wasn't just what we wanted. Yeah.
Right.
Very different from today. Although my boys don't watch TV at all.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. They both used to have televisions in their room with, so that they could watch like videos and stuff like that if they wanted. And they both got rid of them. Well, no, one still has his TV in his room, but it is connected to his computer and used as a screen. And he does have a Roku box, so sometimes he'll watch things like TED Talks, the sort of thing. But they just don't watch. They don't watch television. They don't.
I don't watch a whole lot. Yeah, I record things, and then sometimes I get around to watching them. But my TV is mainly on during races.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot. I don't.
I use it as background noise sometimes, but we don't have cable. I didn't grow up with cable. We had 4 kids, and we were all busy in activities. So what we do is on Saturday, if there wasn't like a game to go to or something, we would watch a movie. We'd buy like a cheap movie from Walmart, and then we would watch it until we were so sick of it, and we would like have every line memorized. So, which I'm surprised my kids haven't gotten to the point yet, but we don't have cable either, and I've got them in all these after-school activities. So the only time they get to watch during the week is for a couple minutes in the morning. So I'm really trying to hone in, like, you have to be dressed and eaten and brushed teeth and all that before you can sit. And, I do understand because then, especially for Annie, because I keep her at daycare until we go to the activities, and then we come home and it's usually time for dinner, bath, bed. So she really doesn't get any sort of screen time then, and she definitely misses it. Because the things she likes to watch, we let her watch on an old iPhone, are like reality blogs, I guess, of other families and stuff. Yeah, so these other kids, I guess, get to watch TV too. So I'm already getting the like, you're a mean mom, and well, their mom lets them stop, and it's not even someone she goes to school with. It's some weird family in Kansas or something. I'm like, okay.
It's unique.
But they don't live here.
Yeah.
Well, I did do some professional development this week because I tend to listen to things when I'm taking showers or when I'm cooking supper or something. And I found a new podcast. It's just a brand new one that's just started. It's called The Writing Gals, and they're on YouTube. And they're 4 sweet romance writers. They do a lot of contemporary, so you kind of have to think about it in your own way for Regency or historical. There is one, I think, one of them that does some historical, but mostly what they've talked about has been the contemporary sort of writing. but that's been really informative because they're very open about, they shared their numbers as far as, how much they would be making. They talk about writing to market. I know that sometimes is a horrible thing to bring up, that writers do want to actually make a living with their art. Mm-hmm. And like I heard Joanna Penn say on something this week, it's not, you've got two hats. You're an artist and you're a business person. You've got a passion for your art, but you're also this business person, and the two can be joined together. It's just like any other business that would be based on art. The interior decorator that comes to your house, you would expect to pay her. If you're going to buy a designer dress or a designer ring or some sort of jewelry, you would expect to pay for that service, not just for them to, give it to you. But they're not selling out.
Yeah.
They're just using their passion. The landscaper who has a passion for plants and stuff, he's making money off of his passion, and that's the same with an author who is an entrepreneur.
Right.
I think sometimes that gets, I don't know, it becomes a little bit taboo for an author to speak about that, and that is really nice to hear these ladies talking about, we have our books that we write for love, and then we have our books that we write for money, but we also love the books that we write for money. It's not that, we're only doing this because it's because, we have financial needs in our family, so we know we have to spend more time on this certain type of book rather than this other one that might be like 3-4 genres all mashed together type of thing. Yeah. So that was interesting. And then we're talking about tropes as well, which can also be I've heard used as kind of a bad word, that you shouldn't have tropes. But you can't write without a trope.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just the way things are. You've got the ugly duckling who meets the handsome person and is rescued, Cinderella things. You've got boy or girl next door type tropes. You have them in every book that you pick up. Yeah.
You can't avoid them.
No, you can't. So that's been really fun listening to those. They do. Theirs go long too. They always try for an hour, and then it ends up being like an hour and a half or something like that, because there are 4 of them, all chatting about different things. And by the time you get 4 people to comment on something, it takes a little while.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. Can you link that?
I can.
In the comments when we're done.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also have a Facebook group.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Which there's a link to that in their YouTube post. So, yeah.
Can I make a comment really fast about something you said? I don't want to derail us and make us take so long. But what you said about writing to market, I've seen another author say, and she said this like in an author-only group, but she said that, she had done some sort of coursework on writing to market and stuff. And the coursework, really, what I talked about was how it can be a service to the readers, because the reader, like you said, sometimes we write something that's like 3 or 4 different tropes or genres or something kind of all meshed up. That's my sort of thing. I've done that and they usually flop. Readers don't know what that is when they're looking at it and they're reading the blurb and they're like, what is that? What does this feel like? I don't know what to do with that. And once they can give it a try, it might be a really great thing. But a lot of people are just, it's not comforting to them. There's no security there. They don't know what to expect. So they're not going to try it and stuff. And it can really be, you can do a trope, you can do right to market and twist it in some way and stay true to yourself. But she said that it's really about giving your readers what they want. They want a book that has XYZ. So you need to give them XYZ. It's not just that you're a sellout. It's that you're meeting what they want. It's giving a reader satisfaction, a quality, what they would call a quality product then. So that's an interesting way to think about it too. I know a lot of other authors seem to think it's all about selling out or something, but I think from the reader perspective, it's, meeting what they actually want.
Right.
So.
That's what these ladies were saying too. It's all about reader expectation and giving the reader what they expect so that they have a satisfying experience. And you're doing it to the very best of your ability. You're getting it edited. You're getting it proved. You're not just putting something out that's second rate. Still putting it out there with your whole heart and soul in it. But you know that it's going to probably hit a larger market than your, passion project might.
Right.
I can testify to all this.
Yes, which I can too, because if I do a Darcy and Elizabeth book, it hits a bigger market than when I do a non-Darcy and Elizabeth book. That's changing a little bit. I can see over the past few years it's shifted somewhat. There's not as big of a gap between, but I know that like contemporary, if I wanted to do a contemporary Darcy and Elizabeth book, it would probably be not as well received, right? So you would need to make sure that you have your cushion there, your money cushion, your time cushion, that you can actually afford to do it, right? And we did mention that one week too, and some other author in a different genre was saying the same sort of thing. A big name guy too. It's just part of being a business person,
right?
Yeah. And Chris has joined us too.
Yay!
Hi,
Chris.
So yeah, I think until you experience those sorts of things and you see it flop for yourself, maybe I'm just so not business minded. Maybe that's part of it. But I kind of thought that readers read me because they liked me, and if I tried something, they would just follow me.
I did too.
I mean, some of them do. Some of them do, definitely, and I love those readers so much.
Yes.
But not a lot of them.
Some of them are just looking for a specific thing, and that's what they want. So yeah,
which totally makes sense because I've been reading contemporary romance lately. I don't know how Facebook started to advertise this to me, but I finally liked one. I was like, well, I'll read a free sample, and then I liked it and everything, and now I keep getting more and more. And it's actually kind of nice because I feel like I'm reading more because it is a different genre than I write. I know other people always talked about that, and I never did it. I always stuck with my historical romance and my JAF. But now I'm doing it. I'm like, okay, it's really nice. Like my brain, I can see some of the tools that they use, but I don't have to think quite so intensely like I do when I'm reading things closer to my genre. Right. So it's nice. Reading can actually just be like a reading break again. Hopefully it'll stay that way. Who knows? I might end up having to try all the different genres. Yeah. But what I'm seeing is that I don't pay attention to who the author is. I just click around, and the next time an advertisement comes up, it might be somebody totally different. And it's all about what the blurb looks like and what the sample looks like. So yeah, I get it now, I think. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, when I first started reading JAF and historical romance, and even still, I'm very loyal to certain authors that I really like, and I will go and read them all and stuff. But I guess I'm seeing more how a lot of other readers now, especially with the way Amazon and other places can advertise to you, market to you, and that has changed a lot even since we became authors. Yes. It's in the news about how Facebook targets you and stuff. So, yeah, I think about that now. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense now. And I wish I would have thought about it that way in 2015. But I get it.
Another thing that we're talking about with the writing to market is making sure your book cover appeals to the widest market. So I am starting on a project to redo several, I don't know if I'll get to all of them, book covers to make them look more Regency-like. And when I started, I was like, no, I don't want that same Regency model that I see on everybody's book, on my book, because it's overused and they look too modern, or all those excuses that you hear. or complaints that you would hear. But if that's what 10,000 people out there are expecting to see on a cover,
right,
then I need to give them that cover, rather than what I think might be pretty.
Right.
I mean, it's still going to be pretty, but it's not just my taste, right?
Yeah, or just details of like, I see some and they're so beautiful. And I've been in conversations with people and they're like, well, I want to have this in it because that's like a part of the story. And it's just like, it's a little tiny thing that's, how they like to do things faded out and everything. And it looks beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, especially in a paperback that you're holding, but it doesn't show up as well in an ebook. And the reader doesn't get that little symbol means a whole lot. And I think they really exhaust themselves trying to do all those things, and they'll go back and forth with a very expensive editor and find all these stock photos, and the whole process takes weeks or months and hundreds of dollars, and just so much time and effort is spent into it. And really, you just need something that's pretty that they're going to click on, that fits with the genre. And I know I need to rebrand too, because when I was first starting out, and even I rebranded even in July of last year, I was trying more for like a historical fiction, because Darcy and Elizabeth always get together my stories, but I kind of felt like fiction, the historical fiction, was more my niche than the romance part of it. But I don't feel that way anymore. I do really like the romance, and I do think I want to fit in that category better. So I have to do it too. And it takes forever.
It does take a while. Finding those images takes a while. I wanted a picture of a Regency era storefront for the next one. It's not happening.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
I wish I was an artist. Then I could just draw the things in my head, but I can't find the pictures of.
Yeah, finding the pictures takes hours and hours and hours. Yeah. Peggy said that as a reader, at this time, she has no interest in dragons or moderns or werewolves. I don't really have a lot of interest in dragons and werewolves either. Although moderns, I don't read a lot of, or even think about writing too much. Lately, my mind has been wanting to go there. So I may write a contemporary one eventually, but I'm going to have a little bit of money in my bank account and some time to do it.
Yeah.
Definitely, you're not going to get as many sales if you do the modern.
Right. Tell me about that. And for heaven's sake, don't make a racing book.
Yeah. If you do it just as sweet romance, there's lots of contemporary readers out there. But the crossover where the Jaff meets the other genre is a very small little circle, I think. It's not that big. Although, this is funny. As I was listening to one of the podcasts, they were talking about the tropes, and I forget which trope it was. I think, I don't know. I can't say. Anyway, one of the girls mentions, so you're going to, use Mr. Collins as your hero or something, and the other girl's like, oh no, he's not a romantic hero. And I laughed as I was rinsing shampoo out of my hair, because that is what I'm doing in my next book. Well, the next podcast that I listened to just yesterday, they were talking again about, starting, how to start. And sometimes they were saying it's not always good to start with your character looking in the mirror. You don't want to do any sort of dull info dumping, or you shouldn't have them looking in a mirror, describing themselves. And I'm like, I have Mr. Collins looking at himself in a mirror. But they did go on to say, unless you have a reason for it, and there is a reason for him doing that, which I think is needed in his particular story, because you do need to know how he appears to himself.
Yeah.
In order for this story to take place. Mm-hmm. Oh, here's a question from Peggy. Oh, wait. It just popped away. What do you think about the current trend to have very modern looking characters on the covers, models? That's what's available.
That's what's available.
I mean, really, that's what I think about it, whether I like it or not. is irrelevant to me because I don't have $500 to spend on a single cover that will be licensed to me for only 5 years and then I'm going to have to replace it. I need to find a source where I can get them for less and that can be used for longer, just to make a better investment in my business.
Right.
And be able to make anything back on the creation of that product book, which I know people don't like to think of it as a product, but once you put on your business hat,
it's a product.
It's a product, right? Whether we love it and think of it as our baby or not. But that's my opinion. What do you guys think?
Well, I know my first ones, I try to use public domain art, and it gets really scary, like it might be public domain. This website says it might be public domain, but it might not be. Or if you go over too many sales, or if they change something, if someone purchases it, license it, if you change it too much, and then just running out of them, like especially if it's a good quality. Like I was getting to the point where I wasn't finding a lot of good quality ones that were in public domain.
Sometimes too, the like it's a picture of a landscape or something from like 300 years ago. The landscape is public domain, but that image that somebody posted is not public domain because it belongs to the photographer.
Right.
And then you run into that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it became scary, and it, honestly, they looked really, I think, kind of, hold on, I've got one right here. This was my first cover, first done. These are models from fashion plates that we recolored, like his suit. We turned his head. I mean, it took so hard just to find a guy. We recolored all the gowns. We turned them. We had to mush them together. And then this image, this watercolor on the cover it's Hyde Park, but it's from like 1900 or something. But it was public domain and everything. All these images are public domain, but it just, they're just not very good quality. I'm sorry, but they did not do good illustrations for those fashion plates. Yeah. Like, people's noses look weird. Their necks are strange proportions.
Their heads are never right size.
Yes. And I even do a theme on my blog of historical artwork, and I very seldom pick an artwork from like before the mid-Victorian era, like probably between 1650 and 1850, because whatever they were doing with the art in England, especially, not looking so good in my opinion. It looks very flat. You're not getting a lot of different textures and shadows and highlights. All the things that you learn about like in art class, they're not doing. I don't know what they were thinking about, but yeah. So, and again, it's even more limited in the people and the figures and everything that you can find that are public domain that you can use that might look attractive than stock photos. So for example, like Abigail Reynolds has one for, I think it's Mr. Darcy's Refuge, woman in a white gown, and there's like a water scene backdrop, like she's near a river and stuff, and it cuts off her head. By the way, the woman's head is not so attractive, so I totally understand why it's cut off. It's a very famous portrait, and I see it everywhere. I've seen it on plenty of other non-JAF covers too. There's a couple other different portraits with women like in a white gown like that. Where they were very famous women at the time. They were painted in a portrait by a famous artist, and I see them over and over and over again. And I feel like, it's not going to be any more unique than if you buy a stock photo and it's the same model or something that 500 people have. But I mean, I like this cover. It's pretty, but it doesn't look as professional as what the other ones do. You put this next to the other ones in the genre, the other ones in the category, and it doesn't look as good. It doesn't look as professional.
Right.
It kind of looks like a beginner in a way.
Yeah. No offense to my graphic artist who worked on this. Like, I don't mean to slight her.
It's a beautiful cover.
Yeah. Beautiful. Very well done. And more composite than what I do now. Now I just pick a pretty photograph and slap my name on it pretty much. So, so she definitely did better than I could do.
Right.
But yeah, so unfortunately, and yeah.
Yeah. There were a few comments here that Kathy had made. The covers, making sure that it's, I'm just summing up, and hopefully I'm not summing it up incorrectly, Kathy. I did read them. I'm just trying to remember them all. Making sure that it's the covers, noticeable. And I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about making sure that our cover is fitting the specific genre expectations. So the way that we often do that is we look at what's the top sellers, the hot new releases in a Regency category, and you look at the covers to see what they're doing, and you make sure that your cover has some of the same elements on it. Like if I was doing some sort of vacation, maybe even YA, young adult type story, I might have a beach and all you see is the feet of two people standing together on the beach. That's a very trendy thing. You know what kind of genre you're getting when you see that picture. If you're doing science fiction, you're not going to have a Regency stock model necessarily on there. If you're doing fantasy, you might have a dragon on it or some sort of mythical beast or being. So, yeah, and that changes too. It doesn't always stay static. It doesn't always stay that this is the trend right now. And you do have to kind of look at your packaging of your product so that it's most appealing to the most people. Right. So one of a graphic artist that I was listening to, I think it was on Self-Publishing. Yeah, it was Self-Publishing podcast. He does like huge name people books, a lot of thrillers and crime type things, but he's worked for the big name publishers and things, so he's very knowledgeable in what he does. And he says there has to be some sort of narrative to what your cover is saying, but the narrative has to fit the largest genre that you could possibly fall in, right? So if I'm just looking at it as a Jaff Regency book, then it's narrowing my field. And as a Jaff Regency book, there's more acceptance of more variety of styles of covers than there is in Sweet Regency Romance. Sweet Regency Romance has a very specific sort of look to it, and the spicier Regency Romance have a very specific sort of look to them. I know there are some large name authors that use dresses on their models that are probably wedding dresses that have just been recolored, and they're modern sort of looking, but they give the impression of romance. And because it's a long gown and the whatever is surrounding it gives an idea that it's not modern, it's not a girl in jeans and a t-shirt or a short skirt or high heels or whatever. It still gives the genre appropriate message that you need. And that's what I'm looking at my books for. My covers are beautiful. I really like them, all my flowers. But as my husband says, the flowers need to go because that doesn't really say what's in the book. So the flowers are going to probably be going bye-bye in some ways.
I was told my hearts indicate contemporary romance.
Yeah, they weren't screaming.
They weren't screaming
what genre you were in, right?
Right.
And in Jaff, in Jaff, we have all sorts of different covers that will fit in our genre and are acceptable, But if you want to broaden your sales any, then you really do have to appeal. And I know that sounds so mercenary sometimes when you think
about it. But it's drawing new readers to the genre, which is going to enrich it and keep it going. You know, am I saying that right? So in some, you can look at it as it's mercenary, but we're drawing new readers to our genre by doing this.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I think, and I don't mean anyone on this thread, and I don't have anyone in mind when I say this, but I think sometimes, and I've been there, I've been one of these people, there's a little bit of reader prejudice involved when we start saying, well, I'm not going to read that cover because it looks like that, so it must not be what I want or something, when all I want is something like super narrow. But I've even put up on my Facebook stats, I'm like, I want a book that has these like 5-10 different things that I can't find when I'm like on Amazon. So I'm asking my friends, well, no one's gonna make a cover that looks like something when I'm being so picky, and it's just specifically the mood that I'm in right then. You know, any other day I'd be picking out all sorts of different things. And yeah, I think I've been there. I've been there with, oh, well, who are these new people coming in? And, well, I don't know. I mean, Pride and Prejudice and zombies? Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh. But, you know, you give it a chance, and amazingly, it showed like horror readers that they could like classic literature. And I wonder how many people did go and try Jane Austen after that and are around and are reading all the fanfics now. They probably would be more open to fanfic than plenty of other just Austen fans. Because, for example, I knew about Jane Austen fan fiction for a long time, but I refused to try it because I was prejudiced against it. I'm such a snob. I can be so snobby, people. And yeah, so what, every time we say, well, you know, we're trying to expand the market and we're bringing more people in and we can get them to try Jane Austen fan fiction, because I did a blog post where I looked at the best-selling romances, not just even a historical romance, but just the regular romance category. And out of the top 10, I found every single one had a theme that Jane Austen used. I was like, I looked at the blurb. I was like, okay, this is Persuasion. This is Mansfield Park. This is The Boy Next Door that we've just, you know, I mean, that's how much she's influenced the market and everything. So I absolutely believe anyone that likes any of the other romance can like Jaff. They've probably all read Pride and Prejudice or seen the movie. Yeah, so I think we need to welcome them. But unfortunately, I know there's a lot of people, maybe not a lot, but there's some, and some of them get pretty vocal that are going, I don't want them. Yeah. So to them, I go, I'm going to change my cover anyway.
Yeah. I mean, my business decisions have to be made on what my family needs, not whether someone's going to approve of my decision who doesn't have to pay my bills.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty blunt, I suppose, but it's the way it has to be when you're a business person. Now, is that going to mean that I'm going to stop writing the stories that I like so that I can write other ones? No, I'm much too stubborn to do that. I want to write the stories that I have inside of me, and I feel, you know, if something happens and I were to die with those stories still inside of me, but I had made a lot of money telling these other stories, I really haven't left my best with the world. I just have to be wise about how to package it, how to sell it, and how often to release it, and, you know, balancing it with some other things. And that's what it comes down to. Right. And I know it can be a touchy subject to talk about money. I don't know why, but it is.
Yeah, I think that's the other tough thing about our genre is we have a lot of people that just write one-offs. Maybe they've been writing on forums or just, you know, in their house, and they see other people publish and they go, okay, well, I'll try that. And then they don't like the process, or they didn't get very well received, because it's a lot of hard work. I almost quit after my second. I was just like, I'm not getting enough out of this, I think, like enough fulfillment. I'd written lots. I had a big stockpile. I shared them on forums. I really liked that. But I was just like, I'm just not so into all the hard work of the publishing. And I don't always do a blog tour and stuff now because it's a lot of hard work. And yeah. So I mean the author part of it just never ever ends. Can you hear me? Because I feel like they're getting a little loud.
I can hear you.
No, I can hear you. It's fine.
Okay. Shh. Kids.
See, the kid noise doesn't bother me.
So, I don't have a door.
Here we go.
You say hi?
Leenie, you're a princess.
They can't see you. Here. Oh, don't do that. Anyway, what was I saying about the genres? What was I saying? What did I just say before she came in?
The last thing you were talking about was blog tours.
Blog tours, yes.
So we have a lot of people that do one-offs. We have a lot of people that just write as a hobby after retirement for money. And we finally have some people that are trying to do it as their career and, make enough income, not just as like, I could stay at home, but I'm going to publish a little bit to help my husband or something. But it's like my family absolutely needs my income. And I think other genres, there's probably a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
And Jaff, we're just getting to that point. There's people that are just now, in the last couple of years and stuff. So I think that's something too that readers need to consider. Sometimes we get in our little bubble and we forget.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing that I've seen a couple, Kimberly and Kathy, and there might have been one other person that mentioned this as well. I'm sorry if I forgot who it was. Is they don't really look at the covers. They'll do like a search for Darcy and Elizabeth, and they'll read a blurb. I read the blurbs. The blurb is usually what gets me. Then I look at the sample, and if the sample is good, then I'll get the book. If Kimberly said if I like an author, I'll go read the other things. And that's true. I think once you start to look for a specific thing, like you're looking for Darcy and Elizabeth, that's awesome. But if somebody's just searching something more broad, like Regency romance, they may not scroll by. They may scroll by your book if it doesn't look quite right. So I think creating the book cover for the market is for those who might be the casual buyer, the person who's just walking through the store, not really sure what they want, and they pick something up. That's, I think, where you start, because whether we like it or not, books do get judged by their cover very quickly when you're going through. If the cover catches them, then you need to have your very good blurb, and we've done some studying, the three of us I know, on how to write blurbs that would be effective. And then you do need to make sure that those first, 10% or something that they put of the book needs to be captivating. You need to have a good hook in there at the beginning to let your reader know what's going to happen and pique their interest in that. There's a lot to think about when you're trying to market a book. It goes way beyond just a picture on the cover. But that's kind of what we've been talking about today.
Yeah. Writing blurbs used to be easy. I used to fly through them, and the last one, I'm telling you, I cried. I was like, I want it to be done.
It's so hard. It's so hard, I think, as the author. Even with the multi-author series that I'm in with the Scottish one, they sent like a cover art form and then asked me to put in a blurb. But I'm thinking, what? I'm with a publisher. You write it this time. It's because we want to put in all the things that make it so cool and unique. But then that gives away too much of the story. But then, if you don't put enough in that tantalizes the reader, it's very difficult. Yeah. But the good news is that you can still sell something probably, with, you know, the not the best cover and not the best blurb, and you can update it as you learn and as you grow. You don't have to be perfect when you start out.
No.
Right.
I'm not there.
No, me either. Me either.
Right.
I'm trying to make it a little better each time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even with the writing, I try to make my writing a little bit better each time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I'll ever feel like I've arrived.
Yes. Yeah. Always feel like an imposter.
Yeah. It's a continual learning experience.
It is.
It has to be. If you're not going to learn and grow, then you're going to get stagnant.
Yeah.
And it's going to come through.
And the market itself changes so much. Like, I had a Facebook memory pop up today that undone business was #1 in 3 different categories on this day 3 years ago. And now I don't think I can even get in half of those categories. Amazon won't place me there. And my books are ranking lower, I think, but they're in such a larger genre,
right,
that they're not getting that banner and everything. And even I used to classics, they're not putting me in classics anymore. I used to do historical fiction, but now a whole lot of historical romance people also cross, or it might not be them, it could just be Amazon. Anyway, they also end up in historical fiction. So it's like the same competition, but in both categories. I'm like, what? I'm not, yeah.
The categories that they're putting me in now, I mean, I can click classics, which used to be the big one. You know, the Irish British classics was really good for getting you a nice high ranking and visibility. And all the JAF books ended up in that one. Now, it seems like they kind of scatter us around. They don't have us all in one place. And I keep getting put in just the straight Regency romance or the clean and wholesome.
Right.
Wholesome.
I can't even get in there.
And the ranking there, though, is much more difficult, and you have to have something that looks appropriate for where they're putting you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? So
I know, I've taken a couple months off a few different times because of moves and illness and family stuff. I was looking at trying to track my sales with this release, comparing it to other novels and stuff, and it's 7-10 month gaps in between releases and stuff, which is not so great. But yeah, every time I have to come back, I feel like I'm always oh, what's changed now? What do I need to learn about now? So yeah.
And I just read in a author group that I almost said Facebook, no. Amazon is rearranging and changing categories again.
Again, yes. I read that too.
So it's always something new.
And we've asked, JAF authors have asked for several years for our own category. And they won't give it to us.
Because Shakespeare has his own category, and there's far more people writing Jane Austen variations than anyone doing Shakespeare anything.
Yes.
So, yeah. And I know,
wonderful if we had our own category.
I know they were trying for a little bit with a lady, and I talked to some of the authors. What they noticed is that when you put her as the author, she's the one that gets a high ranking and not the individual author. So it was helpful for readers to find JAF that way, but it didn't necessarily help individual careers that well. So, yeah.
Well, we are past an hour, but we can maybe touch this quickly. Maybe we may have to save some of our thoughts for the next time. And Kathy had mentioned that if she sees, 3 stars reviews, 3 stars or above, she'll use. Oh, Peggy's going. Bye, Peggy. Thank you for coming.
Bye, Peggy. Thanks for stopping by.
If it's below 3, she won't always. What's it? Below that, I will not try it, but I do check because review averages can be skewed by a single 1 star. Review averages can also be affected by the way Amazon calculates them. and they give higher weighting to certain reviews than other reviews, ones that have been voted helpful or non-helpful. The age of the review, I've heard, can also affect how it is weighted. So you kind of have to be careful when you're trusting Amazon. They skew things. Their math is not straightforward math, and they don't always tell us how it is.
Yeah.
I will read books with low reviews because I'll be like, seriously, it can't be that bad. Often it isn't. Sometimes I've been like, oh yeah, that was pretty bad. But then I'm not the sort of person who gets put off by things as easily as others. If you have an entertaining story, I'm going to enjoy it. Even if it has some formatting issues and some historical errors and some grammatical errors, I'm still going to like it. Like, I have this one book, I will not say what it is because it's bad. There are so many errors in it, like spacing errors, grammar errors, historical errors. I know that most people would probably give it a 1 star, if that, but I've read it I don't know how many times because the story is just so funny. It's just really super entertaining. So I'm not that sort of person. I'm a little bit more lenient than some purists are, but and I do investigate the reviewers sometimes when I'm looking at them to see if they've reviewed anything that I also liked, because then maybe we have something in common. But otherwise, it's just somebody's opinion, and anybody can have any opinion, right? So I don't put a lot of stock into reviews. I don't even read reviews very often. I let the book talk for itself. And Elaine, sorry, Ellen, it's Ellen. She said she also sometimes reads books with low ratings. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that. They see a low ranking and they're like, I have to check out this book.
I have to see if it's right. Is that reviewer correct?
It's like when you're driving past the accident on the highway and you're looking to see what happened, right?
Yes.
But anyway.
And the tape that does that.
Yeah.
You know, I used to, Kathy had a comment about grammar and punctuation driving her wild. It used to do it to me too, till I started reading Jaff. And I did read, my first ones were published, but then I kind of ran out of those sort of, and because there was only like 3 or 4 people publishing. So I found the forum. And it didn't take me long. But before I finally decided, if I'm going to enjoy these stories, I'm going to have to just forget about the fact that we used the wrong word and that we use a semicolon when we should have used a period. And, you know, I just had to get over it. You know, it drove me nuts. And it's still, if I was honest, there are books that I used to read that I can't anymore. Stories on forums that I used to read that I can't anymore because now I'm an author and now I really see the mistakes. I'm like, oh my God.
You know what? I was a grammar and composition teacher for a number of years. I am so used to reading paragraphs that should have been 8 sentences that are actually 1 incredibly long sentence, or, you know, all sorts of errors that you can get in student work that gets handed to you, that I think as long as I don't have to take out my red pen and mark it, I can't overlook it, because there were times where it was like, you need to write this. All I'm looking for is the concepts. I want to see your thoughts. And I wasn't grading for grammar and punctuation. And I think I've learned that skill to be able to overlook it, even though I'm really picky about those things. I can edit pretty well, actually. I can pick out most errors. I'll miss a few because everybody does. Even my editors will miss things.
They do.
I'll go back through something and it'll be like, oh, how did we miss that? You know, the 3 or 4 of us that have read it. So, yeah.
I was, you know what, when I was a special ed teacher and I never got past a 3-paragraph essay, you know, so I mean, and that was like the last year I taught. We did 3-paragraph essays. I spent most of my career judging single paragraphs.
Yeah.
So it was a little different for me. But if we had a topic sentence, 3 details, and a concluding sentence, I was a happy woman.
Wow.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Jeff
no, I read longer things. I had research papers and things that I had to read. So, yeah. And those are just boring sometimes.
They are. Yes.
But you really, you have to be able to look at a story from someone who's, 12, 13 years old and be able to see the potential.
Yes.
There. And that's, I think, what I had to, actually, I think I probably come across that fairly easily, but that was what I would always focus on more than, well, you obviously need to learn how to use a period, but the fact that they could express themselves well was really important, But anyway, we should probably start wrapping up. Kathy said that she read a book whose story she loved, but there really was virtually no punctuation. That would bother me, yes.
Yeah, that would, I wouldn't be able to read that.
Yeah. Kimberly says historical errors don't bother her, and she can ignore grammatical errors, but clear spelling errors really get to me. Oh my goodness, I make spelling errors all the time. I try to catch them all before they get published. I try. And I do have other people who proofread and stuff for me, but sometimes they get through. Actually almost won a spelling bee once, but my spelling is atrocious.
One time I misspelled Meriton, and I switched the Y and the T, so it was Mertyon, and it was on the first page of a book, and I had to submit the file for pre-order, and I was doing like one final read through, but it was like had already locked me out, and then I noticed it, and I was like, oh no! And there had been plenty of people that read it, and maybe it said town, and I changed it to Meryton at the last minute because I wanted no one to be confused that I meant London.
Yeah,
I think maybe that was it, but there was still one other person that read it after me, and neither one of us noticed. But it was the first page, and I had a typo on a book cover one time. I misspelled Bewitched, and like 10 people looked at that cover when I was showing it off.
And nobody noticed.
Nobody noticed, but a blogger noticed. Contacted me like, "You're a typo on your cover."
Your brain makes you see what it thinks you should see, right?
Yeah. So, oh gosh, okay. I had Sophie from Laughing with Lizzie beta read Letters from the Heart, and I sent it to her, and I had my copyright information in it, and I made a typo in the copyright. I said, like, instead of 2015, I did 2105, apparently. And she's like, I've seen the future. And like, she was joking about it. She even posted it on Facebook, and I'm staring right at it. I'm like, I can't, what's wrong with this? I can't see what the problem is. And she's like, you don't see where it says 2105. I'm like, oh.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I try to give people a lot of grace.
I did too. Yeah. I'm just typing out a little response here. I'll read it to you in a minute.
Okay.
Well, maybe I can do it as I'm talking. Maybe. I don't know if I have those skills. Kathy was saying she writes text stuff, so it has to be very specific, which obviously has to be. And I was just saying I've read math problems aloud. Yeah, that's not what I wanted. That was a autocorrect. It said aloud. It's supposed to be allowed, as in out loud.
Yeah.
And corrected the grammar as I'm reading it. I'm like, wait a minute, that is not clear.
Yeah, a lot of math problems.
Yeah.
That's what I'll go with. That's why my SAT scores were what they were. I had almost perfect score on verbal, and not so perfect on that. So that's what we'll go with.
I had almost perfect score in grammar in the SATs, so it's always been one of those things.
I don't even remember taking the SAT. I remember taking the pre-SAT, the practice. Well, I do not remember taking the SAT.
I honestly don't remember if it was SATs or ACTs that we took.
I don't remember that either.
We took I think we took the pre-SAT, but I don't know if we actually took then the SAT tests or the ACT tests when we finally got to. I don't remember. I wonder
if my high school would have that information still. I mean, that was a while back.
I remember looking at the score and being in the guidance counselor's office when they were showing us the score and being upset by it. And he was like, "Why are you upset with that score?" Because it was good. It wasn't a bad score. I said, "Because my sister got one higher than me." Like, of course I'm upset. I don't like it when my sister does better than me. Sorry, Chris.
Okay, so now I want a story where Lizzie feels very competitive with Jane.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I agree, Ellen. The storytelling ability matters.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably the most important thing to me in a book is the storytelling ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A good storyteller, it's easy to forgive their mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes.
It's probably what you're talking about with that book that you keep reading over and over.
I think so. I mean, it was just so entertaining, and it could have been a really great story if she had someone go through it. I mean, it was not a clean read, just, but it was a really good, totally improbable, but I'm not reading fiction for reality.
Yes, exactly.
I'm reading fiction because I like to think about what could possibly happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not reading it for a history lesson. Sorry, just not. Well, we are approaching an hour and a half now, and I do have a family who is waiting to go out to celebrate my eldest son's birthday that he had this week. He turned 21. We're going to go out for supper because it's the only weekends are the only time when we're all together that we can do those sort of things.
Right.
And then they'll have to go to work afterwards, so we can't be too late going out, or they'll be really late coming home from work.
Right.
So, yes. Yeah, sometimes errors are because English is a second language. Yeah, I can often pick out which stories are second language stories because I did teach second language students, and there are just certain common errors. Or, well, my youngest son who has dyslexia, he will sometimes make the same type of errors that maybe a second language person would make. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And anyway, we should probably get going.
Harry's children want us to go.
Yes, Jasper apparently has to go potty.
No, it wasn't Ellen. It was a different one. But yeah, that would be. Sometimes you get different spellings from different countries.
That's true. I think a lot of
we Canadians spell things differently than y'all Americans do. And I did grow up in the U.S., so I can say that because I'm both. I'm not officially a Canadian citizen yet, but I think I've lived up here long enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you all next week. We really appreciate that you were able to join us. And we had quite a few here today.
Yeah, nice.
So next week we'll post on the event page what time we'll be setting it up. But we always have to look at what's going on in our lives and schedules, and then figure it out from there as we get closer to the weekend. But usually it'll be sometime in the afternoon like it is today. But we'll post there, and there's always that self-promo thread, so make sure if you have something else you want to share again next week, it can be the same thing you were sharing this week. I don't care. We will put that up, and I am trying to download these and get them onto YouTube as well, onto my YouTube channel, Leenie Brown channel, so that I can maybe share them then through my blog, because I know I have readers who have told me they are not on Facebook.
Mhm.
So it's another way for more readers to find out about my work, Rose's, Zoe's, and then any of the ones that are on the self-promo thread. All right, any last words?
Oh, I think I'm all talked out.
I'm sure I could talk for longer, but I'm also getting hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry too.
I would like to go eat my steak dinner.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good week, everyone.
Have a great one.
Good week, everybody. Talk to you next time.
Thanks all for coming.